Welcome students. In today's class, we are going to discuss about the skeletal system, which is the system of our body, which is supporting our body, helping us to walk properly, walk erect, and give us the required support. And this is known as the skeletal system, which is made up of the bones, muscles, ligaments, and the tendons. If we see the definition of the skeletal system, or how can we define the skeletal system? So the skeletal system is the framework of the bone. So it's like a frame which is made up of bone, consisting of bones which protects and supports the body tissues and internal organs. So bones are the stronger part or the harder structures which are protecting and supporting the internal soft organs like the heart, stomach, liver, kidney, etc. So skeleton is the framework of all bones together, and there are total 206 bones in human body which is making up this whole skeleton. Now let us look at the functions of the skeleton system. The skeletal system gives us a shape and support to our body, and as we have said earlier that it is protecting the internal soft organs of our body. Like the skull, it is actually protecting our brain. The ribcage is protecting our heart and the lung. The backbone is protecting the spinal cord. It allows the movement of different body parts. Like we can move our hand, we can move our leg. So all of this movement is actually possible due to the movement of the skeleton system. Many bones in our body are hollow. They are filled with a jelly-like substance called bone marrow. Now what is bone marrow? If we are cutting a particular bone, there will be a very soft spongy part at the central portion of the bone, and that is actually light pink in color, and that portion is called bone marrow. Now why the bone marrow is very important? Because bone marrow is the place where the blood cells are made. So the bones are also helping us in production of the blood cells. It also stores and releases minerals. As we know that calcium and phosphorus are the main components or main salts that are making up the bone. So it is storing calcium and phosphorus in the bone. It is facilitating movement and it is supporting the body. What is a bone made up of, or what are the components of the bone? There are two minerals or mineral salts that are present in the bone, which are calcium and phosphorus, and there is a fiber that is present and that is making up the bone, which is called the collagen. So two mineral salts, calcium and phosphorus, and one fiber-like thing or fiber-like protein which is called collagen. These three things make up the bone. What are the major bones in our body? The first is the skull bone, which is protecting the brain. Jawbone, which is composed of the upper jaw and the lower jaw, and the teeth are attached to the jawbone. There is the backbone, which is actually the forming the main axis of our body, and the spinal cord is present inside the backbone. Rib cage, it is protecting the lung and the heart. The upper limbs, that means the hands. The lower limbs, that means the legs. And the girdles, girdle means the places where the upper limb and the lower limb are actually attached with the main body. So there are two types of girdles, shoulder girdle and the pectoral girdles. Now we will look into detail regarding the major bones of our body. The first is the skull bone. As we can see in the picture, it is an entire bone and it is totally fused together and it is protecting the brain. So it's the bony framework that protects the brain. How many bones are present in the skull? There are 22 bones present in the skull, and they don't move. They are united into a single unit. So there might be 22 bones present, but from the outer side we cannot actually separate them into 22 portions because they are totally fused together and make a single skull or single unit. The upper part, that is the skull and the upper portion of the cheekbones, has 8 bones. It protects the brain, and 14 bones are there which is forming the face. So 8 bones in the skull and 14 bones in the face, together they are making up of 22 bones. Next bone, that is the jawbone. So jawbone is the largest and the strongest bone in the face. So it is actually a part of the face bone, but it is a little bit different than the others because as we have seen that the skull bone and the face bones are totally fused together into a single unit. They cannot move. But the lower jawbone is the only bone in the skull or the face bone which can move. When we are chewing the food, we are only moving the lower jawbone and not the higher or upper jawbone. It is also called the mandible. It is forming our lower jaw, and what is it doing? It is holding the lower teeth in space. It helps us to bite, chew food and speak. It is the only movable bone of the skull. Next we have the backbone. The backbone is present along the middle portion of our back. It is actually attached at its upper end with the lower or the ending part of the brain, and it is continuing through our neck, through our back to the hip portion of our body. So it is forming the main axis of the body, and it is actually helping us to stand erect. Without the backbone, we couldn't stand erect, let alone walk. Now, the backbone or the spinal cord or the vertebral column is actually composed of 33 small bones. And those 33 small bones of the vertebral column, singularly or singly, they are called the vertebrae. Now, together the backbone is like a hollow tube. It's just a hollow tube which has a hollow structure in the middle like a pipe, and inside the pipe there is the spinal cord which is containing the blood vessels and the nerves. So the backbone is very important for standing erect as well as maintaining the different body functions properly. The next important bone that is present in our body is called the ribcage. It is present in the chest region and it is protecting the internal organ which is the lung and the heart, which are the soft organs of our body. Now the rib cage is actually made up of pair of ribs or 12 pairs of ribs. So together 24 ribs are present in the rib cage. All of them are attached to the vertebral column at the back side, and they arch back to the front side, and they are attached to a single bone which is present at the central portion of our body, which is called the sternum. So at the back side they are attached to the vertebral column, they arch back, and they are attached to the sternum at the front side. By this arrangement they are making a cage-like structure. Only 10 pairs of ribs are attached to the sternum at the front. 2 pairs of ribs are not attached to the sternum. These 2 ribs are called the floating ribs. These floating ribs are the last 2 pairs of limbs. As we can see, the attachment is actually shown in yellow color. The last 2 pairs of ribs has no yellow colored attachment to the sternum. These are actually the floating ribs. Upper limb is consisting of the 2 hands. 2 hands means the arms, the lower portion of the arm, the fingers, the wrist and everything. So there are 2 parts, upper part and the lower part, or the upper arm and the lower arm. The shoulder girdle is the part which is joining the upper part of the upper limb to our spine. There is a single bone which is consisting the upper arm of the upper limb, which is called the humerus. There are 2 bones in the lower arm which are named as radius and ulna. The upper arm is joined with the lower arm at the elbow. Elbow is a joint, and there are many small bones in the fingers and in the palm of our hand. Lower limb is the two legs and the whole part of the two leg. Just like the upper arm or upper limb, the lower limb is also having two parts, upper leg and the lower leg. The longest thigh bone is called the femur, and it is also the longest bone of our body as well. It is making up the upper leg of the lower limb. It is joined with the lower leg at the knee. Now knee is having a bone which is called the patella, and patella or knee is a joint. Now the lower part of the lower limb is consisting of two bones, tibia and fibula. And there are many bones in the feet and the fingers as well, or toes as well, like tarsals, metatarsals, phalanges. So there are 7 plus 5 plus 14 bones in the lower part or lowermost part of the lower limb. So this is actually consisting the lower limb or the legs. Girdles are the places where the upper limb and the lower limb is joined with the main axis skeleton of our body. In the picture, as we can see, it is representing the shoulder girdle, which is the joining portion of the upper limb with the spine or the rib cage. So shoulder girdle, and also it is consisting of the hip girdle, which is joining the lower limb with the body. Shoulder girdle is a pair of shoulder blades and a pair of collarbones. The pair of shoulder blades are called scapula, and the pair of collarbones are called clavicle. In the hip girdle, there are 3 bones which are fused together, and we will see the picture in the next slide. In the picture, in the left hand side picture, the whole skeleton, the red portion that is marked, it is actually representing the hip girdle. As we can see, it is the place with which the lower limbs are joined, and it is part of the main skeleton of our body. Now, the hip girdle is actually formed of 3 bones fused together. What are the 3 bones that are fused together? It's called the ilium, the ischium and the pubis. So these are the 3 bones that are fused together to form the hip girdle. Now in the picture there are different parts as well marked as part of the hip girdle, but we don't need to go into that further detail. We just need to know the 3 names of the bones: ilium, ischium and pubis.